Libyan law enforcement agents and militias have been killing at least 581 civilians between January 2020 and March of 2022. That's according to the World Organization Against Torture, which says victims include Libyan nationals and migrants. The organization says the number includes people executed in detention facilities or tortured to death. The findings are contained in a report titled, "That Was the Last Time I Saw My Brother." It is the first research focusing on extrajudicial killings in Libya. The OMCT says documented cases represent the tip of the iceberg. It says extrajudicial killings of defenseless civilians, often accompanied by horrific torture, are now endemic in Libya. The organization says both government agents and armed militias are behind the indiscriminate violence and total impunity. The report is based on direct interviews of witnesses and survivors carried out across the country by the Libyan anti-torture network. The two-year investigation, which land members undertook at significant personal risk, was further hindered by the COVID-19 pandemic and the fear of reprisals. Witnesses included survivors of atrocities and, in some cases, guards or members of security forces. We speak now to Sahar Ben Hazem, who is the Libya spokesperson for the World Organization Against Torture. She joins us from Tunisia. Very good evening to you, and thank you so much for speaking to us. I think let's just start with who or what the World Organization Against Torture is. As we mentioned, it's the first time it's come up with such a report. Tell us more about that. Please unmute yourself. Sahar? Unmute yourself, please. No, we can't hear you. Okay, we're going to see if we can give you a moment, or perhaps it's something on our side that we need to fix. But we're looking at a new report. It's by an organization called the World Organization Against Torture. They say Libyan law enforcement agents and militias have killed around 581 civilians, and we'll find out exactly about the information and how it's being collated. Let's take a quick break. Do stay with us. Right, welcome back. Let's go back to that report about Libyan law enforcement agents and militias being accused of killing at least 581 civilians between January 2020 and March 2022. We speak to Sahar Ben Hazem. She is the Libya spokesperson for the World Organization Against Torture. They've compiled this report. She speaks to us from Tunisia. I believe this is the first of its kind, this report by the World Organization Against Torture. Tell us a little bit more about them. Who or what are they?
First of all, I want to thank you for your invitation and for giving me this opportunity to talk about our report. As you said, this is a unique report because this is the first one of its kind, focusing specifically on extrajudicial and unlawful killings in Libya in this period of time. And as for the World Organization Against Torture, OMCT, our program in Libya started in before 2020, but our work with the Libyan anti-torture networks started at the time, and our close collaboration with the Libyan anti-torture network and through their documentation on the ground and the statistics of hundreds of cases that they collected, we were able to draft this report and to bring forth this huge number of cases. These 581 documented cases, as you said, are only a fraction of the total number and the reality of the cases that we can find in Libya.
So tell us a little bit more about how you collated the data, whom was interviewed.
So the Libyan anti-torture network did a absolutely amazing work on the ground despite all the difficulties and the challenges and the security situation and the threats on their lives to do this kind of work on the ground. And the documentation includes testimonies from first-hand eyewitnesses of these killings, showcasing both state and non-state actors systematically using violent practices, including torture, leading to the death of the victims. These practices described in detail in the data analysis section of the report, where it is clear that the perpetrators intended to either execute victims, torture them to death, or in other cases to dispose of their bodies in random places. It is also important to mention that in some of the cases that were documented, the victims were killed due to indiscriminate attacks on civilian areas.
Now, the report says it's the Libyan law enforcement agents and militias that are responsible for the killings. The figure we've said was 581 civilians. Firstly, is the figure correct as we speak to date? And were they merely casualties of war, or were they targeted, or both? So how can you still hear us?
Yes, I can still hear you, but...
Okay, so the question I was asking...
if I understand correctly...
581 people who were killed. Is that number still correct to date?
So this number only covers the period from January 2020 to March 2022. And we don't have further information following that, but this number is only for the cases that we were able to verify.
Okay.
As we said previously, it's only the tip of the iceberg, unfortunately.
Right. So the people who were killed, were they targeted, or were they just civilian casualties as part of the ongoing conflict?
So there isn't exactly a targeting of a specific kind of victims. Unfortunately, they are both Libyans and migrants alike in the documented cases. However, access to documentation of migrants' cases seems to be more difficult and complicated than the violations against Libyans. We need to stress that migrants are more vulnerable to torture and killings, as they are mostly subjected to these violations in secret and unofficial detention locations, including human trafficking hubs, leaving them loath to speak about these violations. Fear, anxiety, trust issues, along with a dangerous environment that is their reality, are blocking access to information.
So we mentioned the fact that some of the information you got through land was through eyewitness accounts, but some of them actually were security force agents themselves. Why were they willing to speak out?
I don't know for their personal reasons, but what I can say is sometimes maybe witnessing these kind of human rights violations can be stressful and makes them want to do something about it, which is good. But Libya has been dealing with two parallel governments since 2014, and the resulting political division and improper integration of armed groups into state law enforcement and army massively contributed to the spread of the militia rule culture, which means a huge number of human rights violations being committed by and through the ordering, consenting, all allowance of government officials and authority. So this is absolutely concerning, and so far there are only a few of these people who are involved in the process that have been able to kind of help and facilitates the process of documentation and of cases.